Good evening, Mr. Mamabolo. Thank you very much for your time. Perhaps you can start by reminding South Africans about the provisions as they stand currently, the provisions that, of course, you want the public to comment on. That's just the key provisions.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity for you. In 2018, last year, Parliament approved a political parties funding act, and that act provides for a number of elements. Firstly, it retains the representative political parties fund, onto which the fiscals will make a contribution. And from that fund, there will be a distribution to political parties that have representation in the National Assembly as well as in the provincial legislatures. So that's the first component. The second component is the creation of the Multi-Party Democracy Fund, which can receive donations from corporate South Africa as well as from international entities for as long as they are not governments or agencies of government. Now, the third component of the Act is direct donations to political parties. The Act, for the first time, regulates direct donations to political parties. The Act prohibits certain types of donations, typically proceeds of crime, donations from state-owned enterprises, donations from foreign governments or agencies of foreign governments. Those can be allowed even if they are made directly to political parties. And then there are certain duties that are placed upon accounting officers of political parties to open bank accounts and the like, and the need for all political parties in the country to report all donations that they receive to the Electoral Commission on a quarterly basis. So the regulations that we will be discussing tomorrow and Friday are really about the mechanics of implementing these provisions that I've just outlined.
Now, talk to us about the powers of the Commission specifically. You've touched on the sort of roles and responsibilities of government entities, what will be prohibited, what won't be, what will come from fiscals, and what can come from corporate entities and other people. But talk us through what the provisions around the Commission, the Electoral Commission itself, and your role in the management of this whole setup.
Yes, the new Act does extend the mandate of the Commission quite extensively. For starters, the Commission must manage through a Chief Executive Officer the two funds, the Representative Political Parties Fund as well as the Multi-Party Democracy Funds, and ensure that any monies that stand to the credit of both funds are distributed to qualifying political parties. So we've got a mandate to ensure that we make available funding by way of disbursements to political parties on a quarterly basis. The second important element of the role of the Commission is to ensure that we receive the disclosure reports on a quarterly basis. And once we've received those quarterly submissions by political parties, compile them into a composite report which we then avail for members of the public. And once a year we need to compile an annual report that is then presented to Parliament for discussion. So, you know, this then changes the funding landscape in a fundamental way, because never before in this country had it been necessary for parties to make such disclosures and for any of the state institutions to have a duty to make what is disclosed to them over to the public, so that members of the public can know what party has received money from which entity. So in a sense, Vuyo, This new act and the regulations, they are really talking about a component which is necessary in our political architecture, which hitherto has been missing. And we hope that it completes the whole cog in a healthy democratic system.
In fact, the disclosure of funders has probably been the most controversial part in the evolution of this law. How long is this process going to take, and where exactly are you in Cape Town tomorrow for those who may still want to come forward and make representations?
Well, the Commission is quite eager that this framework be made operational. So although we do not have a precise date at the moment, it is our intention to work full stop to ensure that no time is wasted with delaying the process. We will be at the Taj Hotel on Wales Street, and all members of the public really, and any other interested body is welcome to be part of this important milestone development in our political party funding landscape.
Mr. Mamabolo, that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. IEC CEO Sai Mamabolo, who is in Cape Town, where tomorrow and on Friday, they will be holding these hearings where people will have an opportunity to actually influence the laws on political party funding.